From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Wednesday, April 4th, 2018.
Silver is trading at $16.61 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,341 per ounce.
XenCache is trading at $21, and the average price of Bitcoin is $7,330. Antiwar.com reports a little over a week ago a car bombing killed 20 civilians outside a sports stadium in Lashkar Gah. This is an unfortunately common thing to happen in Afghanistan, but appears to have started something very unusual: peace protests. Two Helmand districts, along with multiple Afghan cities, are reporting hundreds of demonstrators holding sit-ins at several sites, calling for an immediate ceasefire and peace talks between the Afghan government and the Taliban. Some of the early protesters organized a hunger strike amongst themselves, saying they won't eat until there's at least 2 days of ceasefire. It's not clear how big a portion of the demonstrators are hunger strikers, but there seems to be a number of them in the Helmand province. The Taliban has acknowledged the peace protest already, issuing an initial statement saying that protesting the Taliban would not do any good and demonstrators should instead protest at U.S. bases, since it's the U.S. that has been keeping the war going. The U.S. invaded Afghanistan in late 2001. While the Taliban has expressed openness to peace talks in recent months, the U.S. has said they are no longer willing to talk at this time.
For over 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals. Gold, silver, platinum, and palladium. They don't feed the banks. They're Bitcoin preferred and have removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts Brokerage today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co.
UPI reports the California Supreme Court on Monday upheld a controversial state law that allows law enforcement officers to take DNA from anyone who's arrested or charged with a felony. In a 4-3 vote, the court ruled in favor of the law, which has allowed California law enforcement officials to create a DNA database of tens of thousands of people who were arrested but never charged or convicted. The law was challenged by privacy advocates, including the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which argued the state's constitution prohibits the collection of DNA from arrestees because of the severe impact DNA collection has on our right to privacy. But the case had several other components, and Justice Leandra R. Kruger, who voted to let the law stand, said the DNA collection could still be challenged. The 3 judges who voted to strike down the law said the case was an opportunity to get rid of a program that allows the state to retain and search a DNA database full of people who were never convicted of a crime.
XenCache is the world's first private, distributed, and reliable platform for communications, transactions, and publishing. XenCache has the ability to use both transparent and shielded transactions, with shielded transactions using zero-knowledge proofs. XenCache features global governance with inclusive decision-making, reliable funding for continuous improvements, and documentation and wallets in many languages that are available for Linux, Mac, Windows, and Android devices. Learn more at zensystem.io. That's zensystem.io.
Reuters reports a group of U.S. states and cities sued the Trump administration to stop it from asking people filling out the 2020 census form whether they are U.S. citizens. The lawsuit filed by 17 states, Washington, D.C., and 6 additional cities challenged what they called last week's unconstitutional and arbitrary decision by the Department of Commerce, which oversees the Census Bureau, to add the citizenship question. It was also a fresh challenge to what New York Attorney General Eric Schneiderman, at a press conference announcing the lawsuit, called the administration's anti-immigrant animus. All of the states bringing the case have Democratic attorneys general. They were joined by New York City, Chicago, Philadelphia, San Francisco, Seattle, and Providence, all of which have Democratic mayors, and the U.S. Conference of Mayors also joined the lawsuit. Another state, California, filed a similar lawsuit last week. When asked for a comment, a DOJ spokeswoman referred to Attorney General Jeff Sessions' April 2nd statement lamenting how California's meritless lawsuit forced it to litigate whether the government deserves an accurate count of who can legally vote in our federal elections. The U.S. Constitution mandates a census every 10 years, which is used to determine the drawing of political boundaries, the allocation of seats in Congress and at the state and local level, and the annual distribution of about $700 billion in federal funding. Critics of the citizenship question say it might dissuade some immigrants and perhaps many citizens from being counted, with a disproportionate impact on Democratic-leaning states. The citizenship question has not appeared on the census since 1950. This has been FPP Radio News. Online at fppradio.com.